Leaves one beside her. 24 hours before death was supposed to claim him, William Harrison, a real estate titan feared by many and loved by few, struck a deal no one could have predicted. A homeless girl, a stolen pastry. A request that sounded like insanity. Pretend to be my daughter just for one day. Everyone wrote him off as a dying man losing his mind. Doctors gave up. Family dismissed him. But no one knew the truth hidden inside the girl's rusted locket, a secret powerful enough to resurrect a man declared beyond saving. And when his heart monitor flatlined, that secret woke up with him. If you're watching, breathe deeply. Because what comes next will challenge what you believe about fate, blood, and forgiveness. Machines hummed like distant ghosts in room 217 of Virginia General Hospital. White fluorescent light washed the walls in a cold, unforgiving glow. On the bed lay William, 68, powerful, broken, trapped inside a body that refused to obey him. 47 days of silence. 47 nights hearing life discussed around him as if he were already gone. His once commanding presence now reduced to pale skin and hollow breath. His silver hair, once perfectly combed, now lay wild like a man who had wrestled with his memories in sleep. His jaw, once sharp with leadership, hung slack, defeated. Inside his motionless prison, his mind raced. Is this my punishment? Is this the price for the day I turned my daughter away? Every beep of the monitor was a hammer striking the memory of Emily walking out pregnant, his pride sealing the door behind her. Not time passing, time accusing. Shoes clicked against tile, heavy steps William recognized instantly. The chief neurologist, the man who never walked fast unless the news was grim. Ethan followed behind, 35, proud, successful, yet broken. A son who wore William's eyes but not his warmth. A man raised to be steel, now crumbling. Doctor, it's been almost 2 months. How much longer do we keep him like this? His voice cracked like someone swallowing a lifetime of unspoken love. William wanted to scream, I'm here, son, don't let me go, not yet. But silence was the only language his body could speak. The doctor studied charts, eyes tired, words heavy. There's no improvement. His brain functions continue to decline. The sentence fell like a death sentence spoken softly. Ethan sank into the chair, hand gripping his father's like a man begging time to stop. Sunlight hit his face, grief carving lines into his youth. He built an empire. He raised me alone. But he wouldn't want this. Then came the words William feared. We'll disconnect life support tomorrow. And inside a body that could not move, William screamed. Morning came like judgment. Doctors entered with quiet footsteps. Machines waited for the order to end a life. Ethan held his father's hand, trembling, breaking. Dad, forgive me. And then a spark, a tingling in fingers unmoved for weeks, a twitch, a miracle cracking open reality. The nurse gasped, wait, he moved. Eyes opened, slow, blinding, alive. Ethan's sob shattered the room. Dad, the impossible had happened, but fate is cruel, it gives, only to test what you're willing to lose. William whispered one word through dry lips, son. Machines leveled, hope rose like sunrise, until pain split his skull lightning sharp, monitors shrieking, doctors rushing, nurses shouting. A miracle was born, but death wasn't finished. William Harrison walked out of the hospital 3 days later, against every medical warning, as a man who knew time was rationed now, like drops of water in a desert. He didn't want sterile walls or the scent of antiseptic in his last days. He wanted the world memory, forgiveness. A silk tie trembling between unsteady fingers, a Cadillac engine rumbling like a farewell hymn. And a destination carved in guilt for 20 years, the bakery where Emily once laughed. Each passing street felt like walking back through his sins. By the time he reached the pastel yellow storefront, William's heart was already breaking. The bell chimed, soft, nostalgic, almost cruel. The smell of chocolate and pastry hit him like a memory he wasn't strong enough to hold. He could hear Emily's giggle, see Ethan counting coins, see himself, strict, proud, blind. Emily always wanted just one more eclair. His whisper trembled like a prayer no one heard. He ordered her favorite, took it outside, sat alone, a king on a crumbling throne, holding a dessert like it was her hand. And across the street, hunger watched him. A child, bare feet, ribs visible, eyes too old for someone so young. Harper, rain-tangled hair, clothes stained by concrete nights, stomach screaming louder than morality. She didn't want to steal. Stealing meant guilt. Guilt meant remembering she was alone. But hunger rewrites the rules. In a heartbeat, she ran, small fingers snatching the eclair like life itself. Sorry, sir, it just looks too good. And she was gone, not a thief, a starving child running with a piece of someone else's memories. The guards raised a gun, and William said the words that changed destiny, put it down. No one hurts her, mercy, a foreign language on his tongue. Why did he care? Why did her eyes rip through 20 years of suppressed regret? He didn't know yet, but fate did. Harper ran until her lungs burned fire. Through alleys, puddles, shadows, the eclair warm against her chest like a heart she never had. She stopped only when she collapsed beside a cardboard shelter where a boy even younger than her watched the dessert with dying eyes. Caleb, hollow. Silent, starving, she could have eaten it, she needed it. But grief recognizes grief, hunger recognizes hunger. Hands shaking, she offered it to him. No words, just the quiet miracle of a child feeding another child. He cried while eating, and for the first time in a long time, Harper smiled. A small smile, a breaking one because kindness hurts when you have nothing left. Sirens shattered the moment. Security guards found them. Guns, flashlights, anger. Caleb froze, prey before predators. Harper stepped in front of him like a shield she didn't know she could be. He didn't steal it. I did. Take me, just don't touch him. And fate rolled the dice again. A black Cadillac slid into the alley like judgment. The door opened. William stepped out frail, leaning on a cane, but with eyes burning with recognition he couldn't explain. No one will arrest her. She's just a child, one act of mercy, two hearts rerouted, a life rewritten. Caleb escaped into the shadows with his treasure. Harper stood trembling in rainwater and fear. And William, this dying man, looked at her as if seeing Emily alive again. You must be starving, come back with me, choose any sweets you want. Harper hesitated. Kindness was suspicious. Kindness always demanded payment. But she followed. Hunger sometimes chooses hope. In the bakery again, a scene reborn. Sweets filled the table. Colors like childhood she never got to live. Cream on her cheeks, tears mixing with sugar. William watched silently, a ghost tasting life through her. You remind me of my daughter. Harper froze mid-bite. Something inside her shifted, like a puzzle piece whispering where it belonged. Rain began to pour outside. Goodbyes felt inevitable. She stood to leave, thin arms wrapped around herself like armor. Thank you for the food, and I'm sorry for everything. She took one step toward the door, another. Leaving like she always had, quietly, unseen, forgettable. But destiny isn't polite, destiny interrupts. William spoke 3 words that rewrote fate. Pretend to be my daughter. Harper stopped. Rain dripping down her face like disbelief. Just for one day before I go. He didn't ask for forgiveness, he asked for presence. And she, an abandoned child with only a locket to her name, whispered back. Yes, because one day of belonging is worth a lifetime of hunger. Hours passed like slow-moving storms. Harper waited outside the ICU doors, legs pulled to her chest, face buried into her knees, while doctors worked to keep William tethered to life. Then the door opened, not gently. Not kindly. The lead physician stood there like a verdict, wearing a white coat. Ethan beside him, jaw tight, eyes raw and red from grief or rage. No one could tell the difference. The doctor inhaled the kind of breath doctors take before truth. He woke once because of her, but the aneurysms are worsening. We estimate 30 days at best. 30 days, a month, a countdown instead of a life. Harper's breath stuttered, lungs shrinking around panic. Ethan's fists clenched, iron beneath skin. We will keep him comfortable, but we cannot stop what's coming. William Harrison, a man who built empires, would leave not with thunder but with whispers. Unless something changed, unless someone refused to accept fate as final. And Harper was not someone who let go easily. She stood small, shaking, but burning with a fire she'd carried through every night she slept on concrete. If he woke because I was there, her voice soft but unwavering, then let me stay. The doctor blinked. Ethan snapped. Rage made of grief and misunderstanding, Ethan stepped forward, too close, towering like a shadow trying to swallow her. You nearly killed him. Harper flinched, every old trauma teaching her to recoil. But she didn't step back, not this time. No, she whispered. I woke him. Ethan's breath trembled, anger and mourning tangled like barbed wire inside him. He wanted someone to blame, he needed someone to blame, and she was easy to hate. You're a street rat with a locket, that doesn't make you family. The words struck like fists, but Harper had survived worse. She lifted the locket, steady now, brave now, and held it between them like proof forged from loss. Maybe it does. Ethan's expression changed, not softer, only more wounded, like truth was a wound he wasn't ready to bleed from. He turned away, shoulders shaking, voice breaking. I'm not losing him, not like I lost Emily. A pause, raw, blunt, shattering. Harper swallowed hard. Then don't fight me, help me keep him alive. And destiny shifted. A dynasty trembled, a dying man rested, waiting for her voice again. Harper sat at William's bedside that evening, not touching him, just breathing beside him like presence was prayer. Machines hummed. Evening light poured liquid gold across his blanket. She reached for his hand slowly, like touching relic or miracle. I'm here. A flicker of eyelids, a twitch of fingers, he felt her. The line between life and death leaned toward life because she refused to let go. The doctor watched from the doorway, eyes narrow, mind racing. Medicine could not explain it, but humanity could. Love remembers, blood recognizes. Even after decades, night inside the hospital was a different kind of darkness. Silent, cold, machines blinking like stars over dying skies. Harper sat beside William's bed, legs tucked beneath her, Locket warm against her chest, refusing sleep the way a child refuses to release the only hand holding her up. Hours passed, but miracles don't obey clocks. At 3:14 a.m., William stirred, not accidentally, not reflexively, purposefully. His fingers sought hers, slow, weak, intentional. Harper gasped, the kind of sound people make when the universe answers them. His eyes opened, clearer this time, less ghost, more man. He looked at her like someone recognizing sunrise. Emily's child, his voice was only thread, but thread strong enough to stitch the world back together. Harper leaned close, tears shining like glass. "Grandpa, I'm here." Something bright flickered inside him, not joy, not relief, something deeper. Forgiveness, not asked, not spoken, just felt. Ethan entered the room and froze like time stopped. Father awake, granddaughter discovered, past resurrected. The boy who lost a sister, the man who feared losing his father, now faced a truth he wasn't built for. He was not William's only blood left. Harper looked at Ethan, no anger, no triumph, only hope trembling in her eyes. William lifted his hand toward his son, weak, shaking, a gesture heavy with 20 years of regret. Ethan stepped forward slowly, as if walking through memory mud too thick to survive. He took his father's hand. It broke him. He bowed his head, shoulders shaking, sobbing into the sheets like the child he never allowed himself to be. "I'm sorry," words barely sound, but loud enough to shatter the silence. Harper watched still, small, while a lifetime of pride cracked open between them. William squeezed back, faint but sure. "I failed her, Ethan. But I won't fail her child." Ethan's eyes lifted, red, swollen, searching. Harper held her breath. And for the first time, Ethan looked at her not as an intruder, not as a curse, but as a piece of Emily. A piece he was afraid to love because losing her would kill him too. He didn't speak, but he didn't push her away. Sometimes acceptance begins as silence. Harper reached out, timid, leaving space if he rejected her. He didn't. He let her stand beside him. Two branches from the same tree, grown in different storms, finally rooted in the same soil. But time is a cruel witness. Machines reminded them, every beep, every blip, every digital heartbeat. William was still dying, 1 month left, maybe less. Harper knew hunger, she knew loss, she knew endings. But for the first time, she wanted to fight one, not for food, not for shelter, for family. "We won't just watch him fade," she whispered it like a promise. "We'll give him a life worth living, even if it's only 30 days. Ethan didn't argue, he just nodded slowly, like someone laying down armor made of sorrow. And somewhere deep inside those fractured walls, a family began to form. Doctors released William with hesitation, warnings heavy, prognosis unchanged. 1 month, a number ticking like a bomb beneath the heartbeat, but William didn't want quiet halls and whispered pity. He wanted sunlight, laughter, memory, and the granddaughter he never knew existed. So he left the hospital with Harper's small hand gripping his like a lifeline, and Ethan pushing the wheelchair, not as an heir, but as a son trying to keep what remained of love alive. It was the first time in years William felt like a father. The first time in Harper's life she felt like a child who belonged. Their month began. Day 1, breakfast like a family morning light spilled into Harrison Manor's dining hall. Not cold, not distant, warm because Harper sat at the table now. She ate pancakes like someone memorizing happiness, tasting sweetness and safety in the same bite. William watched her with soft eyes. Emily used to drown hers in syrup too. Harper smiled, syrup on her lips like a child unashamed of joy. Ethan sat across, silent, studying, torn between love and fear. He wasn't ready yet, but he didn't leave the table. Sometimes healing begins by staying. Day 7, laughter where pain once lived. William took them to the park, the one he once refused to visit because memories hurt too much. Now he walked slowly, leaning on a cane, Harper on one side, Ethan on the other, holding a man who held too much regret. They fed ducks by the water. Harper laughed loud, startling birds into flight. William closed his eyes, listening like prayer. I'd forgotten this sound. Ethan heard it too, and something inside him cracked open, not breaking but blooming. He watched Harper smile and saw Emily's light reborn. A new grief replaced the old one, a grief made of love returning. He wasn't just afraid of losing his father, he was afraid of losing her too. Day 15, secrets, unburied night draped the manor like velvet. William asked Harper to sit beside him, close like memory. His voice shook like old photographs in trembling hands. Emily didn't leave because she wanted to, she left because of me. Harper's breath halted. I told her she had no place here if she kept the baby. I thought I was protecting the family name. He swallowed pain sharper than death. I threw her out the night she needed me most. Harper's eyes filled not with anger, but with ache for 2 lives broken by one decision. She touched his cheek, gentle as forgiveness. You can't change then, but you're changing now. William cried, silent tears soaking a granddaughter's hand. Ethan, unseen in the doorway, listened, grief reshaping him. For the first time, he saw his father not as legend or failure, but as a man who regretted being too late. Day 23, a family that should have been Harper and Ethan cooked dinner together, awkward, messy, beautiful. She dropped flour everywhere. He tried not to smile, but failed. She laughed, he laughed too, and the kitchen filled with what Emily never got to see. When they served plates to William, his eyes shone like someone witnessing heaven not above, but across the table. Ethan said it quietly, barely above breath, "She looks like Emily." William answered even softer, "She is Emily's." And Harper's heart, small, scarred, eager, felt whole for the first time in her memory. Day 29, the unspoken fear. William's health flickered like candle flame in wind. Some mornings he woke radiant, others fading like dusk at dawn. Harper noticed first, she always did, the way his hand trembled more. The way sleep clung to him longer, the way silence sat heavy between breaths. She didn't say anything. Children who survive loss learn to sense it before adults name it. But she slept with her hand over his, as if holding life in place through touch alone, and for a little while it worked. Day 30, the final sunrise approaches. Morning came quiet, soft, too still. Harper woke to William's room empty. Not in bed, not in the hall, gone, the wheelchair missing, a door left open like a page left unfinished. Her heart cracked, not breaking, warning. Ethan, William is gone. Ethan's face drained, color, fear striking like lightning. They ran. Because the last dawn of a man who loved too late but loved deeply now would demand more from destiny, and fate was not done with them yet. Morning light bled through Harrison Manor with a quiet that felt wrong. Harper ran room to room, breath sharp, feet slapping marble, calling William's name with a voice that cracked like shattered glass. Ethan followed close behind, panic twisting his features. "Dad, answer me," but the house echoed empty. No cane tapping tile, no soft breathing from the study, no wheelchair resting near the piano. He was gone. The security team swarmed, combing hallways, checking gates, checking footage, each second heavier than the last. Then a guard shouted. Camera shows him leaving through the garden, alone. Ethan froze, disbelief slicing through him. He can barely walk. Harper finished for him, voice trembling like a leaf in winter. He went somewhere important, not to flee, to finish. They found him where memory began, at the bakery, the same table, the same seat, the same warmth he once sat in alone, now waiting for them. The bell chimed as Harper and Ethan rushed inside, and there he was. William Harrison stooped, pale, tired, holding a cup of hot chocolate with both hands like a fragile ember. He smiled when he saw them, not guilty, not afraid, peaceful, like a man who finally forgave himself. Harper collapsed into his side, arms wrapping him like she could hold life in place through love. Ethan knelt too, tears falling freely. "You scared us." William gripped both their hands, one on each side, like two halves of a broken story finally joined. His voice was soft, worn thin like aging paper. "I didn't run away. I just came to remember the happiest mornings of my life." His eyes drifted over Harper gently. "And I wanted my last morning to feel like love, not regret." Those words shook Ethan harder than anger ever could. Time was no longer measured in hours. It was measured in breaths. They brought him home, not like a dying man carried to an ending, but like a father carried back into family. Harper stayed glued to his side. Ethan held William's shoulder like anchor against loss. They tucked him into bed softly, reverently, like laying down a crown. Harper curled beside him like a child returning to a story she never got to hear. Ethan sat in the chair to his right, no business calls, no meetings, just sonhood. William looked at them both, tears glowing like stars. "I thought I had no one left, but Emily gave me one last gift." He touched Harper's cheek, fingertips like feather. "She gave me you," Harper sobbed, small, shaking, earnest. "You gave me a family." And Ethan, voice breaking like ice thawing under sun, added, "You gave me my sister back." Three hands interlocked, grandfather, father, granddaughter, roots joining through grief, guilt, blood. A family born 30 days before death. Then the moment came, a sharp breath, a slow one, and the stillness after. The monitors spiked, then dipped, then steadied, too flat. The house fell silent. Harper pressed her face to his chest, not hearing heartbeat, but refusing to stop listening. Ethan gripped his father's hand like holding it could rewind time. "Dad," barely sound, barely air, Harper whispered through tears. "Please don't leave me, not now." And then a sound cut through the grief like miracle slicing night, a faint breath. William was still here, barely, but here, hanging between worlds, as if waiting. As if needing something more before death could take him. The Cadillac rolled to a stop before Harrison Manor, a house so large Harper wondered if kings lived smaller. Marble pillars like giants guarding history, windows tall as pride, lawns stretching wider than any life she knew. Harper hesitated at the entrance, her bare feet unworthy of such polished floors. William extended his trembling hand. "You don't have to fear, little one, just walk beside me." Inside, chandeliers glittered like frozen stars. Gold frames lined the walls, portraits of wealth, of legacy, of ghosts. It felt like stepping into another world, one she did not belong to, one that might swallow her whole. The moment destiny revealed itself, a small metallic clink hit the marble, the sound too loud in a world too quiet. Harper's locket, the only thing she owned, the only thing she loved, the only piece of her mother she still remembered. It slipped from her neck, landing at William's feet. Before she could reach it, William's old fingers picked it up. He opened it, and his world shattered. Inside, a young woman smiling, eyes bright, hair tied with ribbon, Emily, his daughter. The one he had sent away, the one he had lost. His knees weakened. "Where did you get this?" Harper's breath trembled. "It was my mother's." Silence cracked the room like lightning. William stared not at her clothes, not at her dirt, not at her hunger, but at her face. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her cheek, the resemblance he had forced himself to forget. Tears blurred his vision. Emily, thunder inside the house. Heavy footsteps struck the staircase. Ethan descended, fury lighting his eyes like wildfire. He saw Harper, a street girl, standing where Emily never returned to stand. He saw the locket, his sister's face burning like old wound reopened. He saw his father crying, and his pain exploded into rage. "You're replacing her with trash from the street." His voice shook the chandelier. Harper stepped back, heart pounding like footsteps of past trauma. William tried to speak, but words were a fragile bridge collapsing under emotion. Ethan pointed at Harper as though she were a curse. "She is not Emily." "You can't just buy a new daughter to ease your guilt." Harper flinched as if struck. Her small hands curled around her own ribs to hold herself together. William tried to answer, tried to fight, but pain knifed through his skull. A gasp. A stagger, a fall. His body dropped against the marble like a lifetime collapsing. Chaos, then helplessness. Ethan screamed for help. Servants ran. The locket fell again, spinning like fate laughing. Harper stood frozen, wide-eyed, as if time had turned to ice around her. "Dad, wake up." The floors echoed with desperation. Staff rushed him to medical care. Harper reached out, a small step forward, but Ethan turned like a storm. He grabbed her arm hard, pain shot through her bones. "You caused this." Her voice broke like glass. "Please, I just want to help." He did not listen. He dragged her through the hall, down the stairs, through the back door, rain pouring like heaven weeping. He shoved her into the mud. The door slammed shut between them. And for the second time in her life, Harper was left outside by family she never got to know. Lightning, sirens, heartbreak, rain soaked her skin. Thunder swallowed her sobs. The mansion glowed behind windows she was not allowed anymore to touch. Then she heard it, the thing she feared most: sirens. Ambulance lights flashing red-blue-red like warnings from fate itself. They took William away. And she could only watch, powerless. Mud, rain, hunger, grief. Her small hand clutched the locket to her heart. Her voice cracked into the storm. "Please don't die. You're the only one who ever cared." Rain swallowed the night, cold, merciless. Endless. Harper stood alone outside the iron gates, too small for the darkness around her, too exhausted to keep crying. Her new clothes were ruined, drenched in mud and defeat. The locket, the last piece of her mother, pressed cold against her shivering chest. Hours passed like centuries. Thunder shook the sky, yet she didn't move. Some part of her still believed William would walk out, cane tapping pavement, calling her home. But no one came, only the ambulance did. Red and blue lights slashed across the mansion's windows like blood and sorrow painting the night. They loaded William inside, doors shut, engine roared, and he was gone. Harper didn't even have the strength to scream. Morning broke softly, painfully. The storm left behind puddles like shattered mirrors across the street. Harper awoke curled beneath a torn awning, cold lodged deep in her bones. Her stomach twisted with hunger, her heart twisted with something worse. Loss. Again, across the street, a vendor stacked newspapers, pages slapping in the wind. One headline caught her eye like a knife to the gut. "Real estate tycoon William Harrison, critical condition after collapse." His photograph stared back at her, cold, medical, final. Hospitalized, but where? No location printed, no hope handed to her. Harper staggered forward, voice trembling. "Please, where did they take him?" The vendor stared like she was invisible. Like street kids weren't allowed to care about dying millionaires. He said nothing, but fate whispered in her blood. "You cannot let him die alone, not like Emily, not like you." She pressed the locket to her heart like a vow, like a spark. She turned back toward Harrison Manor and walked. Not because she belonged, but because she refused to abandon him, even if the gates rejected her, even if Ethan hated her, even if she froze in the rain again. Back to the mansion as a warrior, not a victim. The iron gates looked even taller in daylight, like judgment wearing metal. Guards stood still as statues. Harper approached, voice small but unbroken. "I need to know where he is, please." One guard laughed. The other waved his hand like shooing an insect. "Go, before we call the cops." Her eyes burned, not with tears this time, but fire. She stepped back into the street, looked at the towering walls, and found another way. She circled the perimeter, boots, no, tools, no, only hunger, memory, and desperation. Then she saw it, a tree leaning over the back wall, branches like open arms. She waited, watched the guards patrol pattern, counted breaths. When they turned, she ran up the trunk, bare feet gripping bark, branches groaning beneath her small weight. She climbed like surviving was a skill she'd learned young, and she had. At the top, she peered down into perfection. Trimmed hedges, fountains, marble paths, a kingdom she could never be princess of. She exhaled and jumped, her knees hit ground hard. Pain shot up her legs, but she stood. Pain never stopped a hungry child. Servants whispered fate without knowing she listened. Sheets snapped in wind like white flags of surrender. Two maids spoke softly, unaware Harper knelt behind the laundry bushes. They took him to VCU Medical Center. The doctor said it's only a matter of time. The words cracked her inside like stone breaking bone. He might die today. Before she could breathe, before she could stand, a sound behind her froze her veins. Footsteps, slow, heavy, familiar. Ethan, his eyes were red from sleepless grief, but when they landed on Harper hiding among linen, they turned to flame. You. A single word, a sentence, a death order. She backed away, branches digging skin, but rage followed. Guards. Catch her, 3 men ran, boots pounding like war drums. Harper bolted toward the wall, her heart outrunning her body. Branches snapped, bark scraped skin. Hands reached from below. She jumped, hit pavement, rolled, ran. Street to sidewalk to mission, mission to destiny. She didn't stop until the city swallowed her, until her lungs burned, until her legs shook, but she knew the hospital now, VCU, downtown. She followed ambulances. Followed instinct, followed hope. And when she arrived, the building towered like heaven and hell combined. Too guarded for a child, too sterile for a girl made of rain and alleys, but hunger had made her clever. Loneliness had made her invisible. A janitor stepped away from his cart just for one phone call, one moment, that was all she needed. She slipped behind it, silent as regret, small as a secret. Together, cart and girl slipped through automatic doors into the beating heart of the hospital. She searched, floor by floor, until she found him. Room 222. Monitors beeped like distant thunder. William lay pale, machine breathing fading. Harper stepped inside. Her voice was a broken whisper, but full of truth. Grandpa. His eyes opened, and destiny recognized itself. William's eyelids fluttered like memories trying to wake, slow. Weak but alive, Harper stood inches from him, a trembling silhouette in hospital shadows, rain still dried in her hair, eyes holding questions big enough to break the world. Her voice barely existed, but it reached him like thunder reaches mountains. You said your daughter's name was Emily. My mother's name was Emily. Her hands shook as she lifted the locket, his daughter's photograph shimmering under soft monitor light. You called me Emily. Are you my grandfather? The words hung heavy, fragile, holy. William stared, first confused, then disbelieving, then devastated with recognition. Every regret he ever buried detonated inside him. His lips trembled, breath thin as paper. You are her child. Harper's heart stopped. The world froze. 2 broken generations finally found each other, too late or perfectly in time, no one could say, but fate had been listening. And fate never arrives quietly. Machines began to scream. The monitors spiked heart rhythm frantic, blood pressure surging like a dam bursting. Doctors stormed in, voices sharp, commands flying. Get her back, clear the pathway, vitals unstable, code red. Harper grabbed William's hand, tiny palm over paper skin, refusing to let go. Don't leave me, not now. I just found you, but hands tore her away, staff dragging her from destiny, her nails scraping the floor as she fought against the inevitable. She screamed, raw enough to tear the room. Grandpa, doors slammed between them. Monitors shrieked like alarms of time running out. Harper collapsed against the wall, sobbing, shaking, clutching the locket like a lifeline choking in her fist. Outside the glass window, she watched William on the bed, doctors compressing his chest, machines fighting death in a battle too loud for prayer. Then something happened science couldn't explain. In the monitoring room next door, medical staff rewound the hallway footage, aligning it with William's dive in vitals. Harper entering the room, his heartbeat rising but not in fear. In recognition, in connection, graphs stabilized the moment she took his hand. Blood pressure leveled when she whispered, Grandpa. A doctor leaned forward, disbelief widening his eyes. This isn't medicine. This is emotional response triggering neurological recovery. Another answered, voice shaking. She's grounding his brain, she's keeping him alive. A third doctor whispered what none could say without trembling. He responds to her. He needs her to survive. Medical science stood silent. Machines didn't know what to do, because sometimes the body remembers love even when the world forgets. Harper, outside the door, didn't know any of this. She only knew a truth loud enough to break ribs. She could not lose him. Not like she lost her mother. Not like she lost every home, every warm hand, every heartbeat. Please don't die. I don't want to be alone again. Her tears fell hard onto tile, each drop sounding like another child abandoned to the world. She pressed her forehead to the cold door, whispering prayers into steel. Come back to me, and inside, in a tangle of wires and miracles, William's heartbeat steadied. again because she existed. William lay between them like a flickering candle, one breath from darkness, yet somehow still burning. Harper held his left hand, Ethan held his right. The room felt holy, like grief and love had woven themselves into the very air. William opened his eyes one last time, slow, heavy, full of oceans. He looked at Harper first, the granddaughter he found at the edge of death, the child he never knew he needed. His voice was fragile, but every word carried the weight of a lifetime. I wasted years running from pain, but loving you, loving both of you, has given me one last sunrise. A tear slid down Harper's cheek, silent as forgiveness. William continued, his hand trembling weakly against hers. I want you to do what Emily never got to do. Harper blinked, breath tight as thread. Live, be more than the hurt that made you small. Grow into everything she wished she could be. Her heart cracked open, not breaking, but widening to hold the love she'd waited her whole life to receive. She sobbed against his chest. I'll make you proud, I promise. I won't waste the life you fought to stay for. William smiled, faint, tired, beautiful. Then he turned to Ethan. Father to son, the words too long unspoken. Ethan leaned close, jaw clenched to contain the breaking. William exhaled softly, a final truth leaving him like prayer. Forgive me, not for failing you, for failing her. Ethan's tears fell onto their joined hands. I already have. I just never knew how to say it. William nodded, gentle acceptance passing through his eyes. Then live differently than I did. Don't measure love in pride, measure it in presence. A lesson too late for him, but perfectly timed for the man who would remain. Ethan bowed his forehead onto his father's hand. I won't let her be alone. I'll take care of her, for Emily, for you. William's breath trembled, one last flame dancing. He looked at them both, one on each side, and finally William Harrison felt like a father, a grandfather, a man forgiven, and with a soft final breath he let go. No machines screamed, no alarms tore the moment apart. Death came gently like evening settling after sunset. His eyes closed, his hand loosened, the world exhaled. Harper collapsed onto his chest, shaking with soundless cries. Ethan wrapped both arms around her, and for the first time he held her like she was blood, because she was, not by paperwork, not by permission, by lineage, by love, by the locket that carried a mother lost and a granddaughter found. The legacy the estate settled. Lawyers came and went, reporters speculated. The world moved as if greatness dying was routine. But inside that mansion, something unimaginable had been born, a family reconstructed out of ruin. Ethan adopted Harper officially, not because law required it, but because love demanded it. She slept in Emily's old room, played piano where her mother's childhood echoed, and laughed in kitchens that once only held silence. And every morning she placed William's cane by the window, as if he might walk in again with sunrise. She wasn't homeless anymore. She wasn't alone anymore. She was Harrison blood, not by birthright, but by forgiveness. Final scene: Harper stood outside the bakery 1 year later, now in clean shoes, hair brushed, a future in her eyes. She bought 2 chocolate eclairs, sat at the same bench, placed one beside her, not to eat, to honor. I kept my promise, Grandpa. The wind moved gently like a hand through her hair, like his presence never left. Harper smiled, small, warm, unbroken. A girl once starving, now full of love. Because one dying man reached out and one forgotten child reached back, and together they changed destiny.